Chameleons and Coffee. And today with me is Bill and Sarah from Badgerland Reptile Rescue. Good morning.
Good morning. We are excited to see you again. Excited to be back on.
That's right. We had quite the discussion about rescues. That was a fun conversation.
It was. Yeah. Thank you so much.
And all right. So this is a live interactive. Anybody in the chat, see people starting to come on. Please say hello to Bill and Sarah. They once we all get warmed up, they have a fun show to share with us. And for those people on Facebook, please remember, write your name in the captions because Facebook, ironically, won't let me know what name it is. They'll sell your information. Yeah, okay, I shouldn't get into that. But so all right. So Bill and Sarah, let's just start off. Maybe let's give a brief introduction as to what you do and what Badgerland is for the people who didn't see last night's show.
You want me to start?
Of course I do.
So my name is Sarah, and I am the founder and executive director of Badgerland Reptile Rescue. We are a 501c3 rescue located in Wisconsin, in Kenosha, which is right on the Wisconsin-Illinois border. We've been in business for a little over a year now. I guess officially it'll be a year on, is it Tuesday, November 1st? That's when we announced it.
Yeah, I think it'll be a year.
Yeah, so that was kind of our public announcement. However, both Bill and I have been involved in rescue for several years. We just founded our rescue recently because there was kind of a void left in the area that needed a reptile rescue.
What?
You want to introduce?
Not only am I on the board for Badgerland Reptile Rescue, but I do my own kind of reptile education experiences for birthday parties and stuff. I am the executive director now for the Madison Area Herpetological Society, but I've been involved with MAHS since 2014. And so we used to do adoptions and surrenders with MAHS back in the day too. So I'm very familiar with taking in animals and rescuing them and handling animals that are not always at optimal health. It goes way back to when I was a kid, and I used to ride my bike to the local pet shop when I was like 16 years old and would get all the dehydrated anoles for free and take them home and rehydrate them and get them feeling better.
All right. Well, we could just jump in. I had a question from last night, and it was by Inspector Gadget, who has joined us this morning. Hey, yeah, we know the generation. So and the question is, if you are a reptile rescue and you are 501c3, what does that mean? And is it just paperwork, or is there any oversight that comes with that? And since I just jumped in and threw out a term, how about explain what 501c3 is, and then we can ask the question.
Got it. Okay, so first off, I am not a tax expert. I'm not going to claim to be. If you have questions on that, talk to an accountant, a CPA, anything like that. But 501c3 is essentially claiming exempt status. So that's a way of when people are donating to you, they can claim that exemption and whatnot. It obviously is way more complicated than that. It's a legal process to go through. It involves either a lot of paperwork, or there is kind of an easy version of the 1023 form that is not as crazy. Sometimes smaller organizations will start out doing that. And you are claiming the exemption with the government on taxes.
It formalizes the whole process of registering your business within the state that you're in as a nonprofit tax exempt. So you don't have to worry about paying the taxes. You have to report income at a certain amount of money that you make. But you could take donations. Donations can be written off by those donating it. It just formalizes the process. But there are incredible rescues out there that are not 501c3, and there are 501c3 rescues that maybe aren't the most in taking care of animals. And so it's not the end-all be-all of legitimizing a rescue whatsoever. It's just another status in formalizing the tax-exempt status with the government.
that is a way better answer than I had, and I did the entire process. So
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So really, it becomes just a tax status type arrangement. There is, am I correct that there is no government's not going to come and take a look at your facility? So there's no. Okay.
Oh, that's where
No.
USDA, that gets a lot more complicated with different species. And that's where, sometimes mammals, rodents, inverts, like birds, it depends on what species it is and if the USDA is going to issue a license for that or whatnot. We are not rescuing tigers. We're not rescuing rabbits, anything like that. We're just doing reptiles, which are not.
Yeah, if you get involved with the USDA, that's more of inspecting your facility and meeting requirements and stuff, but that's not necessary for a reptile rescue to be certified with the USDA either. You don't have to do that if you're only rescuing reptiles. 501c3, it just, again, it formalizes our process. It makes us tax exempt within the state officially, and then we can collect donations. We have tax write-offs. It is a nonprofit. We don't claim profit at all. And then whoever donates to us can consider it a write-off.
I get to do the annual report every year. I get to do a lot of people
Yeah.
work,
This box, did you make more than $50,000? No. Okay, cool. We'll see you next year.
We don't want to talk to you. All right. So everybody who's in the chat, this is a live interactive. So if you have any questions, any comments, put them in the chat, and we may put them up. We may talk about them and such. And so, definitely talk with Bill and Sarah, and heck, me if you want to talk.
Herbs Live is here too. Good morning.
Oh no, they work with.
Oh, they work with Herbs
Yes.
Live. Okay.
That's Sean McNeely. He works very close. He goes visits them.
Awesome.
Yeah, Keith is actually on the board with Arrow.
Yeah,
as well.
Herbs Alive is an awesome rescue.
Excellent.
They do an awesome job.
Okay. We do have a question about chameleon. Oh, what the heck? We'll take a chameleon question. This isn't about rescues, but you know what? It's a live session, so
It's a live session. Then we can benefit from these questions as well.
All right, so we're gonna do it. Juvenile veiled chameleon, 3 days now. He keeps laying on his basking branch with his eyes closed. Is this something to worry about? If not, when should it become something to worry about? Okay, when you say laying on his basking branch, do you mean just perching or actually having trouble holding on and trying to use the basking branch for support? So if their eyes are closed during the day, it's a concern. That is worth going to the vet if the eyes are closed during the day. There can be a number of things that eyes closed means, from bacterial infection, fungus, parasitic infection, to vitamin A deficiency. The eyes are the indication that something's wrong. And so the first thing you've got to do is figure out what's wrong. And that can be tricky. And here on air, I have to say, go to a vet, because other than that, it takes someone who's experienced to sit down and go through all the steps with you. Now, if you want to do a little of that yourself, you can go to the ChameleonAcademy.com medical section and look for eyes closed. And I have a little bit of a key to show you what some of these ailments look like. And so you can do a little pre-analysis, but you're really going to need a vet's help. In many cases, antibiotics are necessary for something like that because, well, if it's a bacterial infection, unfortunately, that's a common thing. So,
just generally speaking, have a vet. If you keep reptiles, have a vet, find a vet local in your area, even if it's not just chameleons, but any reptile that you keep. It's so important to have a vet. We are so fortunate to have an incredible veterinarian that works with Badgerland, Dr. Jeremy Castletine out in Roselle, Illinois. It's an hour drive, but it's worth it. He's amazing. He does fantastic work. ARAV, I think .org.
ARAV.org. Yes.
ARAV.org is a website where you could find local reptile and amphibian vets in your area. So it's definitely make sure you have a vet.
Yeah, and Dustin, the thing is, once a chameleon starts closing its eyes, you're getting in its last days. So you are not overreacting by going to a vet when your chameleon has its eyes closed. And that's about all I can do at this point. with just knowing about it with just a paragraph of text. So hope that helps. Now, Bill and Sarah, you had a story. Let's go ahead. I'd like to hear your story.
Yeah, so we were on the podcast taping it, and all of a sudden we had a little bit of a surprise come to our rescue. One of my volunteers was handling the surrenders while we were taping the podcast, and we got a message that said we had a chameleon show up.
Wait a minute. Is this when Bill was saying, I hope I never see a chameleon here?
Right when I said, hopefully we never have chameleons surrender ever again, one was walking in the door.
The doorbell rang.
The person that surrendered it kind of accidentally bypassed some channels of like confirming appointments and just showed up at the facility perfectly timed when one of our volunteers was there and the door was unlocked. But how ironic to have a female veiled surrender to us while we were taping a show about it. It was so cool. She's gorgeous. She looks healthy, which again, it's always gratifying to see healthy animals come to rescue. It's sad, whatever circumstances that were present requiring someone to surrender it. But this is a really, really good looking female veiled. I don't have any pictures to show you guys, but she looks great. She's in a little quarantine setup, but we took your advice too. And even though it's a quarantine setup, kind of away from the collection, there's plenty of branches and plenty of hiding places.
Yeah. It's amazing what that does. And if you just take a cage and you just put it on the top shelf, it's like they just calm down because they're looking down at everything.
They're looking down at everybody. Yes.
Yeah, she's really very sweet. So I think that we're going to also take your advice, and she's very likely going to be kind of a permanent resident. I'm a little bit reluctant to stress her out, and adopt her out or send her to foster. And I don't mind having another sweet veiled again,
Plus, reptiles are fascinating. We all love these animals, and just chameleons with it are so fascinating.
Oh yeah.
They're so different from every other reptile. So I'm excited to have them.
Yeah, it's amazing. I look at myself, I say, how many decades have I done? I've done chameleons for more decades than I have left on this earth. And then there's so much more for me to learn and so much more work for me to do. It's like, okay, I'm a lifer. There's just so much to do. Now, with rescues, and I know everybody has a different story, their unique situation, but what are the common reasons why people surrender their animals?
Oh man, there's a couple common themes that I do see that sometimes can coincide around different times of the year. A lot of them, unfortunately, is also the kids are going off to school, college. Unfortunately, there are times that I do notice in the summer, especially if people are moving out of an apartment. So you kind of start to see that at the middle of the month and the end of the month. New apartment, for whatever reason, does not allow pets, or they just don't want to go with the hassle of moving everything. It's unfortunate. We also have people that moved into an apartment and didn't realize the previous tenant left their bearded dragon.
Yeah, we've had that.
That's happened a few times. Yeah, I think definitely a lot of
I'm moving and can't take it with me, or my kid lost interest, or my kid's going off to college and can't with them. But a lot of it is my kid lost interest.
Also, sometimes just unfortunately, we do get the people that say it's sick and I can't afford a vet.
Yeah.
Which is very tough. And
that hasn't happened a lot though. That's only happened a couple of times.
Yeah. I mean, it's always tough. And usually we do have a very good vet, but I do always try to help them out and say like, hey, here's a resource you might want to check out. Here's a good vet near you and see, but.
All right. And Bill.
I saw a question in the chat. I don't know if you have to.
Well, may as well.
I don't want to jump in.
How many chameleons and types of chameleons do you own?
So right now I only have two. We only have the one female veiled. I don't own any personally. I don't keep any chameleons personally, but Badgerland as a rescue currently has the one female veiled that came through and the one female panther that came through. In the past, I've worked with veiled. I think Jacksons are my favorite chameleon
Oh, yeah.
species, and I would actually love to get a group of those again. I've worked with panthers. I've worked with Bradypodion, and I had I want to say it was a Parsons or an Austerlitz chameleon,
Okay.
like a larger species. I had one of those for a long time. Well, up for 6 months. He was an adult when I got him. But yeah, I'm not very huge in the chameleon world. I am fascinated by them, but I don't quite keep them. And now doing rescue, I don't quite keep as many species as I'd like to, because I don't want to keep and work with and breed a species that is common within rescues.
Mhm.
I feel like there's a conflict of interest in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I stepped away from working with a lot of species because I'm working with the rescue now.
You just show up at the door of Herps Alive and say, "Here, guys."
Yeah, here you go.
So,
But yeah, just we have one panther female and one veiled female right now.
okay. Yeah. Now, people in the chat, I'm Bill Strand and that's Bill Stewart. And so if you have a specific Bill you want to talk to, you may want to type it out, because Bill S doesn't do it.
Maybe that question was for you, Bill Strand.
and Bill ST doesn't do it. So
hey, I would like to hear how many chameleons and types of chameleons you own, Mr. Strand.
What the heck? Well, number one, I don't know how many chameleons I own. It is dangerous for me to make a count of that, because if I know, then I have to answer when my wife asks. And so it's best not to know. And as for the different species, I tried to do a count, I think 14. 14
awesome.
different species. I just something like that. And and actually I am slowly getting away from breeding everything that I get, because I'm becoming more and more aware of I want to promote the proper raising of baby chameleons, which is all individually. And so I've had to, it's been about a year or so, and I've realized I got to toe this line, and I am not going to breed chameleons unless I have the facilities to raise them separately. And so I have about the room to raise one clutch of chameleon at a time. And so I've really cut down on the breeding that I do.
Do you separate your babies right away and raise them individually right away? Because I wonder if that's where some people might have issues. I've seen people raising baby chameleons all communally, and the Jackson babies all communally, but I wonder if that's problematic.
Yeah, it is. You can get away with raising. Okay, there's two problems with communal raising of chameleons. First of all, there's the emotional stress, because chameleons aren't meant to be together. And so when they're together, they have this immediate dominance play that goes on. And so there's bullying that goes on. In the first 6 weeks or so, it's minor, and then it's emotional. It's like, okay, I'm going to eat that before you do. And so there's a lot of bullying stress that doesn't get physical. They're not big enough to really do damage. They will crawl all over each other. And like I said, they will deliberately eat what someone else is trying to eat just to show dominance. These are very subtle things that you don't see unless you know to look for it. And then there's just the okay, they both are zapping at the same fly, and one of them's tongue gets drawn into the other ones, and so you get damage there. But once you start to get closer to 2 months old, and every chameleon grows differently, they start to be able to damage each other, and they'll bite each other. They'll nip the tail, and they'll take the nipped tail off. They will bite the tip off of the tail, and you got these bites on the eyes and stuff. And so chameleon breeders that do this, what we call bin raising, have to become skilled at, okay, that's a bully. And so they start separating it out. So it's one of these things where we developed a skill, we in the community developed a skill to make up for not giving optimal husbandry to the raising of her babies, because it's not convenient to have 30 different cages. It takes a lot of time. So that's be a slow transition, because there's a lot of established breeders who, number one, don't like to be told that they're not giving optimal husbandry. And number two, their entire infrastructure is set up for bin raising. And how do you all of a sudden say, oh, okay, I'm going to multiply my physical structure by 30? So it's like, okay, you all of a sudden you have to go to a warehouse to be able to do this, to maintain your business. And so the people that are really embracing this are the new breeders. And we have a generation of breeders that is starting off now that holds closely to individual raising. And so that is what the future is. And so everybody who's a breeder, if you want to breed chameleons, that is the future, because the community is becoming more and more aware of the benefits of it. And the people who are individually raising, their panther chameleons grow faster. And so I got a 4-month-old from one of these individual breeders, Ipardalis, and it looked like a 6-month-old. I mean, it was fully colored. It's amazing. And so there is a size difference when the chameleon isn't stressed and it isn't fighting for its food. It just grows to its full potential.
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
I mean, I also, outside of the rescue, as like a personal project, I keep Europlatus. So, and I've been breeding a few of those. I have Henkeli right now, and the babies, definitely keeping them separate, I think, is a big thing, because otherwise you will have one that's kind of bullying the other one and getting all the food. And it's like, I know when you guys each hatched. I have that written down. Why are you at least 2 times bigger than this one? So,
So we learned that separation is good, not just for chameleons.
Yes.
And I think that goes for most reptiles. There, of course, are some that have a definite social structure, like emerald tree skinks, but
skinks,
but chameleons, if you want to do it right, you got to do it separate. And you can get away with it for the first 4 weeks, but still, if you want to do it right from day one, separate them. Let's see. We've got a couple of, we'll go over some comments. Jennifer has a rescue taken in an Ankarami chameleon. That is the pink panther. Quite rare.
Oh, okay.
Very nice. Living in a dragon strand. Appropriate. Yes.
Nice.
Let's see. That's next week. All right. Let's see. Donnie is appreciating my skills in avoiding answering that question when my wife asks how many I have. And because I don't know.
Yeah. Although, when Bill and I started dating, I just learned don't ask. Especially the bug room. He likes his tarantulas, and it's not the tarantulas that freak me out, it's the roaches. I can't handle the roaches. So I'm just like, I don't want to know how many you have.
I have a little secret bug room with the door closed with we got about 25 different species of roach, and we've got about 30 tarantulas.
I didn't even know there were
just
that many
for fun. They're awesome.
World.
They're not feeders. They're just cool.
I tell you, all right. So I got the dubia, and dubia were okay. And for those who don't know, dubia are fine. They don't climb up the walls. And my wife was okay with that. And by the way, this is my wife of like 10 years ago, who was just getting used to this weirdness that she married into. And so she was okay with that. But when I had to introduce her to hissing cockroaches, we could climb up the sides. Oh my goodness, that was not comfortable at all. And so I knew I had a real job ahead of me when I wanted green banana roaches.
Yeah. And, they're tricky.
And for those that don't know, they both climb and they fly. And so
it's terrifying. Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And they can find those little warm, humid parts of your house and kind of stay there. It's kind of a rule, like, tropical species of roach can't normally survive. I'm in Wisconsin, so they're not going to survive our winters. You're in California, so but
it's too dry here.
Is it okay?
Oh yeah, it's too
Some of
dry.
these roaches can, like, you get a couple hissers that find a little spot under your fridge, and they can be there for a little
Oh
while.
yeah. But green banana
Um,
roaches, Texas, Alabama, Florida, they're natural there. So yeah, but
Yeah,
it was
awesome feeder, excellent feeder, but
there is something. I guess my wife has gotten to know me and knows when I'm holding something back. And so when I said, okay, I'd like to get some green banana roaches, and she said, do they climb the sides? Because she knows that's to ask. I said, yes, they do, but I'll use one of those completely sealed tops, and so they're not going to get out, just like the hissers. Not a problem. And it's just something. She just looks at me and says, "What else aren't you telling me?" Oh, geez. Now I got to come clean. Yeah, they fly. Fly!
Yeah.
But if anybody's ever seen them fly, they look like little fairies. They kind of flutter.
they fly
flutter
weird.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not like strong flyers like locusts. They're just bam! Oh no! They just
If you work with small
flutter.
geckos and stuff, then your reflexes are so fine tuned that you can just grab them out of the air and throw them back in the bin.
No.
But all right, so I've told the story about my wife, and of course, every little time a super worm moves, she shrieks. And okay, so that is when we got married. Something happened, and honestly, I can't tell you what happened, but after spending many years helping me because she's supportive and such, and so she's got all of this reptile experience, but yeah, is not a reptile person. She okay, what the heck? I'm getting into the story. We got time. So
We got this,
she
man.
so all of this time she's she is just tolerating and supporting the reptiles, but and then she says, "Bill, we got to talk." And this gets my attention because we never have to talk. That's just not something in our relationship. And so she leads me to the bedroom and sits on the bed on her knees, facing me on the bed. I have never had a sit and face each other on the bed talk before. I am getting ready to be divorced at this point, and I never saw it coming. I never saw it coming. And she looks and she says, "Bill, I want geckos of my own." It's like, what? and I said, okay, this is not what I thought. Think about it. Are you doing this just because you think I want you to be part of the reptile community? Are you doing this for a marriage thing? Or how about this? You sleep on it, and we'll have this conversation in the morning. It's okay. And the thing is, she thinks about things for months and months and months before she brings it up. So by the time she brings it up to me, it's there ain't a whole lot of thinking. But in the morning, she says again, she really wants some geckos. Euryplatus fantasticus.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Awesome.
She's
And-
jumping into the deep end of geckos.
Oh, the thing is,
But you work with chameleons, so you got it.
but I had Euryplatus fantasticus before,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
for years and years, and she helped take care of them.
Excellent.
And we would have babies, and I would accuse her of sneaking geckos into the cage. Hey, did you sneak a gecko into this cage? And so she had years and years and years of breeding experience by not being a reptile person. But
That's awesome.
so she got her own, and oh my goodness, she takes care of these things you wouldn't believe. I mean, she goes into her gecko room, and it used to be a sewing room. It used to be all these other craft stuff. Nope, all that's out.
Yeah.
We don't have
And-
fun sleepover anymore because the guest room became the
Yes!
room. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
She knows every single one of these geckos that she's got. And I mean, she's got pretty substantial breeding colony. And she knows every single one and their personality and who they're getting along with and who they're not getting along with, because she keeps them separately. And so everything is very
So
controlled.
cool.
And
Yeah, she's got to be jamming. Does she only keep fans, or does she keep other Euryplatus?
that's all she does. She
Fans,
is
they're
laser focused.
absolutely beautiful geckos.
Fantastic. I mean,
cool.
she's a serious breeder. It's amazing. But
That's very cool.
this goes further. She took over the super worms because she knows better how to do it than I do, apparently. and she took over my green banana roach colony.
Oh,
She
wow.
literally moved them into her gecko room because they're hers now. So,
Okay.
so we have a complete evolution here. What happened?
Yeah, what? That's cool.
That's so cool.
That's
she has informed me that my Leachianis now belongs with her because she's the gecko girl and not the chameleon. So my Leachianis has been
we have
stolen.
we don't fight ever. Sarah and I don't argue. We don't fight. The only time there's ever tension is when she's trying to steal my. Hey, I'm gonna put this animal that's mine in her room. Like, no.
Yeah, there's a couple. It is interesting though, because I do say it's come up a few times that I feel like because I've been breeding the Europlatus and everything that that's really helped me with the rescue. Because you have to be pretty meticulous in terms of like monitoring those animals because they can be very sensitive, that when it comes in for like quarantine and the animals come in like that it definitely seems to help.
You develop a sense. There is so much of an art to this, and you develop a sense that just applies to everything else you do.
Yeah, you definitely.
And this is
knowing your animals. You know, we always kind of say in the reptile hobby that reptiles don't show their illnesses until it's like too late. And once the illnesses are visible, they're usually pretty far along. But if you work with a species or you work with a genus enough, you start recognizing behaviors that might be a little off, and you can start seeing clues that something's not right before the animal's showing illness. And I think that's where with chameleons, with Europlatus, if you work with them enough and you're a helicopter mom, with you have like 8 cameras showing every angle of their viv.
Yeah, I definitely.
And you're obsessing with them.
The temperature sensor.
Then you can notice little subtleties that might be off in their behavior. And I think that's, and Sarah's using that kind of Jedi mind about to, with the, you could take that and generalize it to just working with animals and recognizing things.
I tell you, one of the most, the biggest growth experience for me is doing this show, doing the podcast and this video show, because I have to really look at that stuff that I just do and figure out how to put it in words. And it's not easy. It is not easy.
That's awesome.
But it is amazing once I'm able to do that, how much better I understand what I'm doing. And so it's all right. We better take a look at some of these.
We got some comments going on. Yeah.
Okay. Someone's saying Bill has a hard time finding him when he attempts to count, so he gives up. Yes, actually, although they're all separate in their separate cages, so sometimes I just count cages because I can't find the chameleon inside. But let's see. Okay, let's go to Facebook user. How do you keep Highland chameleon species cold enough at night during hot summer months in the U.S., especially in an unexpected rescue situation? A mix of AC and humidifier, or any better solutions? I will say it has to be an AC. That is the only way. Like, I'm sitting here in California, sometimes we get into 106 Fahrenheit. Air conditioning is the only way to reliably get that temperature down to where they can survive. And because my wife is in Europlatus fantasticus, we are serious about our air conditioning. We have a backup generator just in case we got these rolling blackouts, because that heat can kill Europlatus or Highland chameleon species.
Yeah.
Now, the second part to that you said with a humidifier in this question, that's exactly right, because the AC pulls moisture from the air. And so this is where having a hybrid cage that has those solid sides and having a fogger or humidifier and mister is critical to be able to give the chameleon what they need as far as environmental conditions. So, okay, I'll let you guys. You guys want to take this one? Do you recommend getting your chameleon from Petco or PetSmart?
Okay, yeah, I'll take it. So I would say that
The general consensus is people like to say no about Petco or PetSmart. Oftentimes,
I think
you
that
don't
it's
know the
better-
conditions of the animals. You know, a lot of times people will criticize the Petco or PetSmart employees for not knowing. I'm slightly different here in Kenosha. The Petco, we don't go to PetSmart all that much. We go there for cat food, maybe. The Petco in Kenosha, Wisconsin, the manager is a reptile person, keeps reptiles, understands reptiles. And so I think I'm a little spoiled here in Kenosha because our Petco is good. They do a fantastic job. And if they have an animal at Petco that has been there for too long, that isn't selling, they'll reach out to us. They'll reach out to other reptile people to make sure it goes to a good home. So I can't speak for all Petcos. I don't really like to get on the trashing of Petco and PetSmart because they have an important, they're an important niche in the hobby. And I think I always think of when I was a kid, my first exposure to living reptiles was at my local pet shop, my local brick and mortar that I would ride my bike to. So I don't want to trash on them. There are Petcos or PetSmarts that don't, especially chameleons. Not sure they quite house chameleons properly. If you understand reptile rescue, then you could take in animals that aren't doing so well. But then there's that whole rabbit hole of, well, if you buy, you're not rescuing an animal if you buy it from a pet shop because you're supporting the pet shop. I'm not answering the question. I'm going in circles.
My stance
Our
is
Petco's
that
good.
you should probably reach out to a good breeder and do your research, not impulse buy because you see a sad chameleon in the cage. It's very hard. It is much easier said than done because every single animal lover has been in that situation where you see the animal and you're like, but I can take it and give it a better home. However, there's a lot of things to consider. I think you definitely should prepare for the animal. Don't just make an impulsive decision, and support very good, ethical, quality breeders as well.
Yeah, definitely. If you could buy something from a breeder, buy something from a breeder. Going into a Petco and buying an animal, usually, like Sarah said, is more of an impulse. Oh, look at that poor thing. I'm going to take it home. And then you might not be prepared.
And it sometimes will end up coming to like my rescue in a few months because they meant well. They wanted to get it out of there, but they weren't prepared either. Yeah. So
I would say that just the fact that you're asking this. Okay, first of all, the biggest problem with Petco and PetSmart is the people who impulse buy.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of trouble comes in. They impulse buy and then they get all their information from the employee who may or may not know what they're talking about. And because every Petco and every PetSmart is completely independent and different as to who's working there, you can't broad brush and say that everyone doesn't know what they're talking about at Petco or PetSmart. Some do.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you're doing an impulse buy, you don't know what a healthy chameleon looks like. You don't know what good information is. And so that is the problem. If you are asking, do you recommend to get your chameleon pet from Petco or PetSmart? You are now part of the community and you are a little bit, you understand what's going on. Excuse me. And so there is nothing wrong with many of the chameleons that are in Petco and PetSmart. And if you know how to tell the difference between a healthy chameleon and a sick chameleon, then you can get one from Petco, PetSmart, absolutely no problem. If you're asking that question, then you're already part of the community. You know where to get the good information. So if you go into Petco, PetSmart, you see a good chameleon, you say, hey, that's a good specimen. I've been looking for a X. Then there's no reason why you can't or shouldn't get it from Petco or PetSmart. And so
that's a good point.
Yeah. And I want to echo what Bill said about Petco and PetSmart having we all talk about the problems that come out of them, but they also have a very, they are a strong part of our reptile community. And so they are a valuable part of our reptile community, and they can evolve just like any one of us, not as fast as we do, but we're now seeing more T5 lighting coming in. Even the Arcadia products are starting to come in.
Yeah.
And those locations, that is, if we can change them and get them up to the good husbandry, they have the greatest reach into the non-reptile community for people coming in. And so I would much prefer working with them than demonizing them.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. And Jennifer made a comment too about recommending building relationships with your local Petco and PetSmart, which is a really, really good idea. Then they will reach out to you if they have an animal. I've taken in animals from our local Petco before. Like I said, I'm spoiled here in Kenosha. Our Petco in Kenosha is fantastic. They do a really good job, and the people who work there know reptiles really well. Our PetSmart did for a while also. I had a few friends that I've known in the hobby for a long time that started at PetSmart. So it's I don't want to paint a broad brush and say that these big box pet shops are bad. Because like you said, Bill, a healthy animal is a healthy animal, whether you're buying it on a breeder's table or you're buying it at a pet shop or mom and pop, whatever pet shop around the corner. If the animal's healthy and you know what to look for and you know how to identify a healthy animal of its species, then buy it from Petco, buy it from the mom and pop shop around the corner.
Yeah.
And knowing a sick animal, don't buy a sick animal ever, whether it's at a show or a pet shop or whatever.
Yeah. And Jennifer here is showing off that she has excellent taste.
Yes.
Yes.
And Brandon saying, wouldn't buy my lizards from Petco or PetSmart. They are rescues and not always will. I'd go to a reptile show. Brandon, that is not true. They Petco, PetSmart, they buy from breeders.
They buy from the same places. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in some cases I have seen where people have surrendered animals to them, and then the individual location may have it up for adoption, but it's not quite the same as a rescue necessarily.
However, what Brandon did say though, going to a reptile show is always good because you're buying an animal directly from a breeder. And then if you have questions about this particular species, you're talking to someone who breeds that particular species and may have some subtle nuanced information that you might not find on a one-page care sheet. So I do, if someone wants a pet and they want a specific animal and maybe they're not in the hobby, I try to encourage them to go to a reptile show because then you're buying this gecko from the man who produced or woman who produced this gecko and could give you, this is when it hatched, this is what it's eating, and you get a little bit more nuanced information about it. But I never want to paint the big box stores in a negative light globally.
But I'd like to change that last sentence. I'd go to a recognized, established breeder at a reptile show because you get people at reptile shows that just buy a whole bunch of chameleons wholesale. They'll put it on the corner of the table. They have no idea what they're doing, and they're just trying to make some money. And so you find all sorts at the reptile shows. But if you go and find a good established breeder that bred the animals, that's perfect. Don't go for the price. Don't go to find the best deal because you will find it and it won't be the best deal.
That one table with big veiled chameleons and tiny deli cups where like a week ago they were climbing around in trees and now they're on a table. Avoid those tables.
Yeah, let's see. Let's do. All right. Let's go. I am really, really working to catch up with the comments here. How do you find the right incandescent bulb? Since all of our bulbs are going to LED, and so we're losing our cheap basking bulbs. I buy them from Zoom Ed, Exoterra, Arcadia. So I just plunk down the money to buy reptile bulbs because I can't find them. And let's see. Going through.
I'm out of coffee, so I'm just gesturing now for the coffee. I'm pantomiming my drinking coffee.
Yeah, and by the way, I did something different today. I made cold brew ice cubes, and it's the most wonderful thing. And so cold brew ice cubes. I mixed in some brown sugar and then made sweetened cold brew ice cubes and put that into my cold brew, and I am enjoying that.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
My Bulbasaur Pokemon mug.
Oh, really? Well, I got my Jackson's Chameleon mug here.
I should have went with the theme
It's
more.
my giant Lululemon thing.
All right. Question. Blue
You
Pearl
were-
Veterinary?
So I've heard of Blue Pearl. We don't really have one by us in Kenosha. There might be one in Oak Creek.
I don't know where there is one.
Quote me on that. And I think there's a few in Illinois. We're right on the Wisconsin-Illinois border. We are very fortunate to have a great relationship with a vet that Bill mentioned earlier, but you know, I do have a few backup vets as well that I will see if our regular vet isn't available.
Brick Falls in Milwaukee. If you're in the Milwaukee area,
Brook Falls, yeah.
Brick Falls does
That's
a fantastic
another great
job.
one. I've never been to Blue Pearl personally, but I have heard about it and I've heard good things. So I don't quite have a review of them, but I've heard good things. So
Okay. Here's a best thing any business selling chameleons is to make them expensive. Most people are willing to spend dollars will find a breeder than using a box store. And this is true because we get into a lot of problems when chameleons are cheap. And when chameleons are cheap, the most expensive thing about a chameleon is the setup. And if you get the setup correct, then care is simple. I mean, once you get the basics down, chameleons are no problem to keep, but it's just the initial setup with the right cage, the right lighting. You've got 3 different types of lighting: daylight, UVB light, and basking light. And then you need the mister and fogger. And so it's a lot. It is expensive. And if you don't get cut corners and don't get one of those pieces, well, then you've got your husbandry is being compromised. And so you're not going to have a great experience. And so, the thing about having an expensive chameleon is people are more willing to buy the entire setup. If they just bought a $35 chameleon because someone's blowing them out at the end of the show, that poor chameleon is not going to get everything it needs, most likely.
Yeah.
So, all right. So what is 2023 look like? Oh, come on. Oh, wait. You got to meet. Are you going to come on?
I'm going to go now.
No.
Thank you.
I got to introduce you. This is Vixen, my little Shiba Inu.
Oh,
What is up?
so cute.
What a beautiful dog. Wow.
And Shibas don't like to be cuddled, so.
Our dogs are downstairs.
Yeah.
He'd be hogging the camera right now.
We have one that's very cuddly and one that's cuddly on her terms.
Yeah.
So
Shibas are the type where they want to be with their humans, but they know, like, they'll just curl up like an inch out of reach. And they just know how to be an inch out of reach so you don't bother them, but they want to be with you at all times.
That's awesome.
So what does the near future or 2023 look like for Badgerland?
Adopting every animal out.
Well,
no, I think we have some events coming up. We will be at Tinley again in March. Schaumburg, some of the big NIRBCs, some of the local shows as well. Definitely want to work on, I think, definitely getting a lot of the animals up on, we use Morph Market as a platform to have our adoptable animals, and I need to actually find the time to get photos and upload it. That's probably one of the hardest tasks to do. Doing more education, I think,
Yeah, education, just generally education on keeping these animals as pets. People understanding the commitment that you get into when you keep these animals. And if you can't keep them anymore, no judgment, reach out to your local rescue. They will take them. Don't release animals into the wild, please. Know your limits with keeping animals. So, doing outreach when we go to local shows, the NARBCs or whatever, kind of helping to just back up everybody with that education piece. In 2023, I want to just keep trucking along and keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
We have an incredible team. We're a foster-based rescue. So when we get animals surrendered, and if they appear healthy visibly, they pass any vet checks after a quarantine process, then we have foster homes. A lot of the animals we get are, knock on wood, most of the animals we get are healthy and in good condition. They have been cared for properly, and some of them just need some socialization. So we have some incredible volunteers, incredible fosters who will take the animals for a few months and help to socialize them. And then they kind of go up for adoption, because we want to make sure that these animals are handleable to a degree, because we assume a lot of families want to interact and hold. Chameleons are different, but we have leopard geckos, ball pythons, bearded dragons. People want to hold and handle these animals,
or they want to
interact
at
with them.
least know, like,
My kid won't get bit.
Yeah, or that, hey, this might
Well.
not be a good one for Timmy or something like that.
Yeah,
You know,
watch out, Timmy. So, yeah, just continuing to get the word out there, not just with Badgerland, but find, a good rescue in your area, promote the rescues in your area and support them. The Arrow has really helped us network with incredible rescues all over the country, which has been awesome.
when will we be so Badgerland, honestly, I need to take a look at what our fosters, every month I have a foster check-in. So I give, one of the processes I have is that I have my fosters complete a form that sort of says, like, yes, I'm going to be available next month. These are kind of the species I'm looking at. And then I sort of look at all that and I see if there are gaps. When we started, I actually onboarded a huge group of fosters, and that was awesome. The only downside is there were a few people that had to wait for us to receive an animal. And I want to avoid doing that. Or they had kind of some specific stuff that, they had kids in the home and whatnot, and we wanted to make sure that it was going to be a good situation for that animal. So I don't quite have an exact date. I'm hoping that we will be able to do another round of foster homes in either at the very end of the year or the start of 2023. But I've just learned, don't give an exact date, because then I'm usually like delayed 2 or 3 weeks. Do I require vet references? So that's another great question. I have a foster form that sort of goes through all that, and we don't require, I guess that's a little bit trickier, because when we have a foster animal, the foster itself doesn't necessarily handle the vet care. That's through the rescue. So we're not going to use that person's individual vet. If there was a situation where that animal needed vet care, we would probably arrange for it to be otherwise. I have people who's never had reptiles become fosters, and we sort of slowly worked with them through the process. So obviously vet references are great. It sort of depends on the specific situation.
Yeah, if you're a Badgerland foster, the animal is still Badgerland's, and any vet care would just be put back on our shoulders. Where, if your animal needed to see a vet, bring it back to us. We would take it to the vet. If you have a vet that you like to work with, we can work those out, but that's kind of a case by case. Yeah, UW-Madison is awesome. They have a really cool vet program. And then you have Spartan Animal Hospital out in Madison. That's fantastic as well.
Yeah.
So
I'm
that's
actually
cool.
from Madison, so I know a lot of the clinics out there, there's some great vets.
Okay.
Sarah, you'll have to send a PM to Badgerland. And if you already have, we'll get to it. Sarah, has got to catch up on all this.
Yeah, I get a lot of messages.
So inspector's saying owning a business, even nonprofit, is expensive. Do you also get cash donations to assist?
We're very fortunate that we have a lot of incredible supporters in the community. We do get donations. I used to be kind of a little like, oh, I've learned accept, help, because vet bills are expensive. Also being able to make sure that some of my foster homes have the proper enclosures, the proper lighting, things like that. So anytime we can get those donations, we greatly appreciate it, whether it's monetary or items or anything like that, that's a great way to support rescues.
The biggest bills are the vet bills and
Feeders.
Electricity.
No,
And then feeders. Yeah. Well, it's, you got to see
Yeah.
those electric bills too sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, during summer, air conditioning, let me tell you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have what drives you to do this? And I know it's a great thing. It really helps out reptiles, but what keeps you doing this long term?
I think
You go first.
Okay. I think with rescue, I like to be very open and transparent that there's moments that you see the worst situations and you see really horrible things, but you also get to see the best in people. And for me personally, I love it when we have an animal that, we got in and we send it to the home, its adoptive home, and the family is just over the moon excited. And that really just keeps me going with all of this, and being able to get those regular updates from our adopters. I started a little private Facebook group for our adopters, so getting to see like them sharing things like look at how the lizard's doing and whatnot, that just warms my heart. And having them be so vocal about how to care for their pet properly and everything, and teaching others, that's great.
We've had way more positive experiences than
Yes.
we have had the negative ones. And the positive experiences that we've had, whether it's adopting an animal to a really good home or getting in an animal that doesn't look well, but having it start to thrive. We took in a couple leopard geckos that were skin and bones, but after 3 or 4 months of feeding and UV and, they look, healthy, they look better. There's so much more positives that we've experienced, and the positive ones resonate with us so much more than the negative ones do. There are sad days. There are, times where animals pass that you've been working really hard to try and bounce back. But those are typically outshined by the positive things. And I love this hobby, and I love these animals, and I love sharing my excitement about these animals with other people. I've been keeping ball pythons for 20 years off and on, but people still get excited to see them. Look at that ball python. That thing is awesome. And so it's that excitement, in the hobby, whether it's me, taking in an animal and having it go to an adoptive home through Badgerland, or doing an educational event with Boy Scouts, or with a kindergarten class where I'm teaching them about snakes and lizards. That and energy and that excitement is definitely what keeps me going. And connecting with different people about these animals is just my favorite part.
Okay.
Yes, we do quarantine. We have a pretty strict quarantine when we take animals in.
Okay. All right. Bill and Sarah, I want to, we're coming up to the end of the hour. Although I'll give you, is there anything more you'd like to share?
No, Bill, this was so cool
great.
to be on your podcast. We really appreciate the invite. It was really great to be able to talk with you and then talk with your guests about what we're doing. We appreciate it. We appreciate the support. You could find, Badgerland on social media, and just keep an eye on what we're doing. Come say hi to us if you see us at shows.
We'll be at shows, yeah.
We'll be at the Show Me Snakes in Janesville, Wisconsin on Sunday, tomorrow.
You will be. I have to work.
I'll be there.
But
Sewer Fest is in Southeast Wisconsin in a week or so. I'll be down at St. Louis. Come say hi to me. Badgerland won't be there, but come say hi to me. Yeah, find us on social media. We appreciate the support. We love this conversation.
Yes.
And thanks. Thank you so much.
It's been wonderful having you on and talking. You've been so much fun to work with.
Thank you so much. Jessica Ward is watching. Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
I'll see you soon. She's one of our volunteers and one of our Herp Society volunteers. So
okay. All right. Wonderful. Hello, Jessica. All right, then, everybody. Thank you so much for joining here. And we will be back next week, and we'll be doing this again. And the topic is going to be Jackson's Chameleons. So,
I'll be joining and watching because those are my faves.
I love Jackson's Chameleons. All right, everybody.